Hey guys, welcome back to Homestead Prepping and Survival. Today I want to cover just a little bit of basics about communication after crap has hit the fan, which means there may not be power as far as the power grid up and running, things like that. Your vehicles may not work. Lots of things can happen if an EMP was to hit. So that's kind of what I focus towards. So I want to bring up today communication. So one thing is, go back to old school. Go back to 70s, 80s, even 90s, 60s, CB radio. So this is just an older base station style, plug in the wall, 40 channel radio, which you see I've got it set on 40 just to show you that it is a 40 channel radio. Now this is a regular CB base station radio. It does have digital clock, all of that stuff built into this thing. A lot of them didn't back in those days, but you know, back then this was a really nice piece of equipment. I came across it, bought it fairly cheap, and I've been storing it. And I tune all my radios. I've got the meter to adjust the power. I've got a thing called a modulator you can put in the radio that'll help boost as you speak and get you up there, but keep your legal dead key limit to 4 watts, which they really don't enforce that anyway, but that is the legal limit, 4 watt dead key. So, and then I've got a couple of mobile radios. This one here is actually mine that I use in my vehicles. And then I've got a spare one over here. Now I've got about 8 or 10 different styles and variances. I've probably got 3 or 4 different base stations and half a dozen or more mobile radios. Now the only difference really between a mobile radio and a base station radio is that it has a transformer in here so that it can plug into the wall and it converts that AC power back to 12 volt to feed the radio that's built inside. And I'm not going to take it open to show you, but it's really simple. These radios would work just as well for broadcasting as well as the base station if you had a power supply to run them. So they're 12 volts, you know, like your vehicles are. And then another option are these Baofeng handheld ham radios. Now these will scan frequencies, listening for other traffic out there, and you are supposed to have a license in order to transmit and talk on these things. The license is not hard to get, it's not very expensive, and it is an option. But the good thing about them is those little GRMS radios that you can buy at Walmart that say up to 2 miles and so on, which first of all is a lie. It depends on your geographic area. You know, if you're in a lower area of elevation with a lot of hills and trees and things around you, it's going to hinder how far that radio is going to talk. Honestly, if you get a half a mile with one, you're doing very well. But the good thing about these little ham radios here is, one, is that they will operate on whatever frequency that you set them for. So in my case, which I'll turn this thing off and back on, and you'll see I've got it, my radios are all programmed. So what we call my place here is the Homestead. So it says Homestead on there. It's capable of having 2 different frequencies at one time. So you can transmit on one, you can listen on the other, and it makes things a little bit more private if someone was trying to hear both ends of a conversation. So just for example, if you're trying to keep some OPSEC, some operational security things going, you could sit there and you could transmit on one frequency and receive on another. So the person you're talking to, or people, would be transmitting on that other frequency, and you would be, hearing that way. So you can go back and forth, and that way no one ever hears both ends of the conversation, or it's less likely. But there's a lot of things you can do with these. This comes with the radio option. So, I can turn the local radio station on and go back to the radio frequencies. You can scan your preset channels to listen for anything you may have, or you can let it sit there and scan all the frequencies it's capable of doing, which takes a while. So it's really hard to pin down a frequency when you do that. So then it's got a light that's actually built in it, if you can see that, on the top, so if you needed it. They're rechargeable. It's got strobe. So it sets on the charger base and charges the battery. So I'm going to turn this one off real quick. And if you push that button, the battery pack slides out the back. And it's got the little places on there for it to hit and recharge. But put that back in there, and these things hold their power very well. You can go 3 to 6 months and still have a good lifespan on the usage of the battery if it's fully charged. So I try to rotate mine out. I actually got caught the other day. I was showing a friend of mine one of them, and the one I had in my get home bag was actually dead. I had waited way too long to let it go, and that was this battery. So all I did is I got home, I switched it with one that's on the charger at the house and put the good one back in my get home bag, and you can tell the radio's, works fine now. So you can do a lot of things with these. I have an adapter, and this is not the radio, the antenna that comes with the radio. This is a longer radio just to help boost that distance that you can hear and talk. But you can get an adapter off of Amazon that'll screw on here so that your regular CB antenna will work with this radio. And that's going to boost your range as far as getting out there talking to someone and hearing other people talking much better than if you were using just this little handheld with the whip antenna on it. So I can do that. And I've got a base station antenna here at the house. And, most people think, oh, just hook it up, plug it up, turn it on, and these things work. Well, that's not the way CB radio works. You've got to get your antenna set. It's called SWR, standing wave ratio, to get it operational at peak efficiency. So if your standing wave is too high, you can actually destroy the radio by talking with an antenna that's not tuned properly. So you really need to have to get that part done. You need to match the radio and the coax and the antenna as one unit and get it tuned to where it's working as efficiently as possible. The better you do that, the further you're going to be able to talk, the further you're going to be able to hear. And like with anything, if you've got it set up right, you can hear much better than you can talk. Now, there are things called linears, which are made for ham radios, but there are thousands and thousands of them out there that have been modified to work off of regular CB radios. Now all these are 40 channel radios. You can buy extra channel kits to put in these things to where you've got 40 channels above the 40 that are there and 40 channels below. You can get into sideband up and down of each channel. So the limitations of what you can do with these with and without a license are tremendous. I mean, there's just so many opportunities out there that you can pretty much tweak it to the way you want it to be for you and your group. But this one, I've just got a regular handheld standard mic on it. I'm not going to key it up because I don't have it hooked to a radio, to an antenna. Now this one I could, because the frequency that I'm using is not a frequency that requires me to have a license. So even though you may have a license, you don't want to be out there advertising that this is the frequency you use. So I try to use some of the frequencies that are license free so that you don't have to worry about any problems from the FCC or anybody else. I don't want, nobody should be out there breaking the law. Of course, crap hits the fan, all bets are off. But anyway, you can even get the older radios, and I'm not sure if I still have any. I'd have to go out and look in my storage, but you can get the old 23 channel radios. Those radios work just as fine. They work just as good, if not better, than some of these more modern 40 channel radios. The only difference is you've got 23 channels instead of 40. But with the options of adding channel kits to these radios and things like that, you can take an older radio and it will work just fine for what you need it to do. So in this case, I actually need to take some of these switches apart and clean them with some radio tuner cleaner because they're getting a little static and things inside of them. But this is the push button you see. Let me get over here, make sure I'm pushing the right button. And see, it's not. I need to clean that switch. But anyway, once you get those clean and it works like it's supposed to, which it worked fine a few minutes ago, so it's definitely got dust buildup in it. I've started storing these things in a plastic tote in my storage building now so that they are less likely to have this kind of issue. But anyway, I really like these little Baofeng radios. They come in handy. They're small, and the rechargeable option on them keeps you from having to buy a lot of batteries. So, you know, your potential for communication is much, much greater if you got the stuff ahead of time. This is stuff you can buy, get it set up, and get it put up and protected from EMP or whatever it is that you're trying to prepare against. And be ready to make things a little bit more normal after crap hits the fan. So guys, I hope you learned a little something on this series kind of thing I'm doing. I appreciate you. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video when you can. Try to help me grow the channel. I know it's going to take a long time, but we need to get this out there to like-minded individuals that are trying to be ready for what could happen and what probably will happen, the way it works in a lot of our minds. So anyway, I thank y'all very much. Just remember two things: Jesus loves you, and so do I.